Imagine this. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, is just 33 years old. His ministry is on fire. Crowds are following him, miracles are multiplying, and he is changing the world with every word. And yet, at the absolute peak of his influence, he allows himself to be arrested, mocked, tortured, and crucified. Why? Why die so young? Why not live to 50, 60, or even 80? Think about what decades more of his teaching could have done for the world. Why choose the cross so soon? The answer is far more shocking than anything you've ever heard in Sunday school. It involves ancient prophecy, divine timing, and a cosmic war that had been raging for millennia. By the end of this video, you'll see why Jesus' death wasn't an early end to his mission, but a divine countdown that couldn't be delayed by a single day. The divine clock. One of the most overlooked phrases in the Gospels is Jesus' repeated statement, "My hour has not yet come." Early in his ministry, he deliberately delayed public miracles and dodged confrontations. He was acutely aware of a precise divine schedule set by the Father. From the moment of his birth, Jesus was living on a prophetic clock. Galatians 4:4 calls it the fullness of time. Every healing, every sermon, every miracle was another tick of the clock, moving relentlessly toward an appointed hour. But when that hour finally arrived, nothing could stop it. Not his disciples, not the Roman Empire, and not even his own prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane. This wasn't a tragedy that befell him. It was a destiny he was walking toward with absolute precision. The age of maturity. Before we get to the end of his life, we have to understand the beginning of his mission. In Jewish culture, the age of 30 was a critical threshold. It was the age when a man reached full maturity and could take on significant public and religious roles. It was the specific age when the Levites, the priestly tribe, were consecrated for service in the tabernacle. It was the age of authority. So it's no coincidence that Jesus began his public ministry precisely at the age of 30. He wasn't some young, inexperienced radical. He was stepping into his role at the exact moment his culture would recognize him as a man of full standing and wisdom. His 3-year ministry, from age 30 to 33, therefore represents a complete, mature mission. It wasn't cut short. It was perfectly executed within the recognized season of a man's prime influence. He didn't just die at the right time, he started at the right time, creating a perfect 3-year arc of public ministry that was both culturally significant and divinely appointed. Prophecy's blueprint. So, what started this divine countdown? The trigger was set centuries before Jesus was even born, deep in the pages of the Old Testament. The prophet Daniel, in a vision, was given a stunningly precise timeline known as the 70 weeks prophecy. This prophecy, found in Daniel 9, pinpointed the exact period in history when the Messiah would appear and, more chillingly, when he would be cut off. Biblical scholars have worked for centuries to decode this timeline, and many have concluded that it points directly to the year of Jesus' crucifixion. It foretold a moment when the Anointed One would die, not for his own sins, but for the sins of the people. This wasn't just a vague prediction. It was a divine appointment written in the prophetic calendar. Jesus wasn't just fulfilling a mission. He was hitting a deadline that had been set in stone for hundreds of years, the Passover connection. But Daniel's prophecy wasn't the only timer running. The reason Jesus' death had to happen at that exact time is profoundly tied to the Jewish feasts, specifically Passover. Jesus didn't die on a random Tuesday. He was crucified during the Passover festival, the most sacred time in the Jewish calendar. Why? Because for centuries, the Jewish people had been sacrificing a Passover lamb to commemorate their deliverance from slavery in Egypt. That lamb had to be spotless, perfect, and sacrificed at a precise time. Jesus was the ultimate fulfillment of this tradition. He was the Lamb of God, without spot or blemish, who takes away the sin of the world. His sacrifice had to align perfectly with the Passover sacrifice down to the minute, to fulfill the prophetic symbolism. If he had waited another year, or even another week, the connection would have been broken, and the beautiful tapestry of prophecy would have unraveled. The cross was not an accident, it was an altar, and the sacrifice had to be made right on time. The parallels are so precise, they are breathtaking. The Passover lamb, according to Exodus 12, had to be a male without blemish. Jesus was the only sinless man who ever lived, the perfect, unblemished sacrifice. The lamb was to be killed at twilight on the 14th day of Nisan. Jesus was crucified on that exact day, dying around the 9th hour, or 3 p.m., the very time the Passover lambs were being slaughtered in the temple. Furthermore, the scripture commanded that not a single bone of the Passover lamb was to be broken. John 19 tells us that when the Roman soldiers came to hasten the deaths of the crucified men by breaking their legs, they found that Jesus was already dead, so they did not break his legs. This fulfilled a prophecy from Psalm 34, but it was also the final, stunning confirmation that he was the Passover lamb, fulfilling a ritual that had been a dress rehearsal for his arrival for over 1,000 years, the enemy's deadline. While God had a divine timetable for the cross, so did the enemy. Satan's strategy from the very beginning was to derail God's plan of salvation. This spiritual warfare made Jesus' mission incredibly time-sensitive. Think back to the very first prophecy in the Bible, Genesis 3:15, where God declares that the seed of the woman would crush the serpent's head. For millennia, Satan had targeted this prophecy, trying to corrupt the bloodline of the Messiah and prevent his arrival. When Jesus began his ministry, the battle intensified. The enemy knew that the cross was the key to his defeat, but he didn't fully understand how. Satan thought he had won when Jesus was crucified. The unseen realm rejoiced at his death, believing they had finally defeated the Son of God. But in their arrogance, they had walked right into God's trap. By orchestrating the death of Jesus, they had triggered their own ultimate defeat. The cross wasn't a victory for hell, it was the instrument that disarmed it forever, a race against time. As Jesus' final hour approached, the prophetic clock began to tick faster. The events of his last 24 hours were a masterclass in divine scheduling, often using the schemes of his enemies to fulfill God's plan. The midnight trials, for example, were completely illegal under Jewish law, but they were necessary to meet the prophecy's deadlines. The high priests, in their rush to condemn Jesus, were unknowingly completing God's will. Even Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor, played his part. His political maneuvering and fear of the crowds ensured that Jesus was crucified before the Sabbath began, a critical detail for the fulfillment of prophecy. If Jesus had waited, Pilate might not have even been in power, and the specific method of death, crucifixion, might not have been possible. Even Judas's betrayal was timed perfectly, an act of treachery that set the final, unstoppable events in motion. Every element of the final Passover meal was a symbolic rehearsal for what was to come, a final lesson before the ultimate sacrifice. The mystery of 33. So, why the age of 33? While the prophetic timelines are the primary reason, the number 33 itself holds a hidden numerical mystery in the Bible. It's often associated with promise, covenant, and completion. For example, King David, from whose lineage Jesus descended, ruled over Jerusalem for 33 years. Jesus is often called the Son of David, and his death at 33 creates a powerful symbolic link to his royal ancestry in the fulfillment of the Davidic covenant. While this is more of a thematic connection than a direct prophecy, it adds another layer to the beautiful, intricate design of God's plan. It's another way the Bible whispers that nothing about Jesus' life or his death was random. The cost of a longer life. Let's engage in a thought experiment. What if Jesus had lived to be 80? What if he had avoided the cross and continued his ministry for another 5 decades? While it sounds appealing, it would have created a theological catastrophe. First, it would have risked turning a spiritual kingdom into a political one. Jesus' fame was already explosive. If he had continued performing miracles for another 50 years, the pressure to become an earthly king, to lead a revolt against Rome, would have been unstoppable. He would have been forced into the role of a political messiah, the very thing he came to avoid. The cross, in its brutal finality, preserved the purity of his mission. He came to conquer sin and death, not Caesar. Second, a longer life would have diluted the singular power of the cross. The entire gospel message hinges on the explosive, once-for-all-time event of the crucifixion and resurrection. It is the focal point of all history. An extended, decades-long ministry ending in a natural death would have turned Jesus into just another wise teacher, another prophet, another historical figure. His teachings would be remembered, but the atoning power of his blood would have been lost. The cross had to be a sudden, violent, world-altering explosion, not a long, slow fade into old age. The urgency would have vanished, and with it, the very engine of salvation. The cosmic reset. The divine clock didn't stop at the cross. The prophecy wasn't just about Jesus' death. It was about the timing of his resurrection too. Jesus had given a specific sign, the sign of Jonah, promising he would be in the heart of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. This demanded a precise timeline from crucifixion to burial to resurrection. When Jesus rose from the dead early on Sunday morning, the prophecy was perfectly fulfilled. This was the moment the cosmic calendar was reset. The old covenant was closed, and the new covenant, written in the blood of Christ, began. Jesus didn't just die, he conquered death. He took the keys of death and hell from the enemy, a victory that was only possible because he died at that exact appointed moment. His descent into the grave wasn't a defeat. It was a raid on enemy territory, where he preached to the spirits in prison and declared his ultimate authority, the urgency of now. So what if Jesus had lived longer? What if he had waited? The shocking truth is that a delay would have broken the chain of prophecy, nullified the fulfillment of the Passover, and canceled salvation as we know it. But the real reason is even more personal. It's about you. The Bible teaches that God's plan is not just historical, but personal and eternal. Jesus' death was predetermined to align with the moment in history when you would exist, so that his sacrifice would be available for your exact life. His early death was not early at all. It was right on time. And just as his first coming was perfectly timed, so will his return be. We are living in prophetic days, and understanding the precision of God's timing should deepen our faith and create a sense of urgency. The cross was not the end of the story. It was the greatest love story ever told, written for you and delivered right on time. If this journey into the mystery of God's timing has opened your eyes, let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this message with someone who needs to hear it.